I'm in my favorite store in the world.
What's not to love about American Giant? American-made, jobs for Americans, and they're manufacturing top-notch clothing with that good old American craftsmanship. They're also doing great things with the Rescue 22 Foundation. American Giant came up with this limited edition Rescue 22 Classic Full Zip Hoodie to help fund a service dog for a veteran in need. You can snag one on their website, american-giant.com. American Giant believes that work and building up American manufacturing communities brings purpose, and purpose results in a better product. If you need quality clothing like jeans, t-shirts, and sweatshirts, check them out at american-giant.com/Jack and get 20% off with discount code Jack at checkout.
This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr.
Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today is my friend Trevor Thompson. Trevor is a former Navy SEAL, served at SDV Team 1 out in Hawaii. Those are the mini submarines. He jumps off bridges, cliffs, buildings, does wingsuit flying, and is working on his Master Alaska Hunting Guide accreditation, and just an amazing guy. Right now, he is working for Protect. That is Protekt right here. I've been using their supplements since they started in 2021, in particular, their hydration and their energy right here, fueling me through these last few novels. So he also has just gotten into making traditional bows, and we just shot those outside, and he brought this up. This is mahogany obsidian, an arrowhead that he made for me and brought up, which was extremely thoughtful. This thing is absolutely beautiful. So now, without further ado, Trevor Thompson. Trevor, what's up, man?
How are you doing?
Thanks for being here. This is awesome. I can't believe you hadn't been up to the house yet.
Well, I've just been to the other house.
I know. It feels like one day has passed since we were there, and then everything's turned into one long day recently.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to sleep. You know that, right?
I've been told.
That's how you reset.
Speaking of sleep, I need to do the rest. I'll give it another shot, give the rest, but I've been using the energy and the hydration from Protect, and just going through those hydration ones just like every day.
Yeah, and the hydration ones are fantastic to do that with, and you can take 2 to 5 of them a day, no problem. And the rest for me has been a game changer. I think I was saying that inside. I take it every night. And
the rest?
Oh, yeah. Because it helps you get a better night's sleep that you're going to get. So if you only have 5 hours, you're going to get the best 5 hours possible. Okay. If you have 8, you're going to get the best 8 possible.
Okay.
In your case, if you have 0, you might just
stumble around a little more.
Tired. Well, no.
That's no change.
It's just, it's GABA, L-theanine, and valerian root. So it just lowers anxiety. It doesn't kind of down-regulate your brain. It doesn't make you go to sleep. It's not like a sleep aid.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you put it in?
Water.
Just what? How much?
About 8 ounces.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just boom.
I mean, I don't want to wake up, at 2 a.m. and be like, oh man.
Yeah. How much time do you leave before you actually go to bed? Like,
I try and leave about a half an hour, after I take some of that. Yeah.
Okay. I'll give it another shot. Maybe I wasn't doing it quite right.
It works. I mean, it's stuff like I think Tim Ferriss tried some, and he's like, this shit works for real. Nice. That's what turned him on to a lot of our stuff.
Oh man, well, I'm loving the energy, loving the hydration. I've been on using that stuff for, is it a year? Maybe a year and a half. Once again, everything's turned into one long day. But when did the company start?
3.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then it must be a year and a half, even 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Then I've been when I got my first box of that stuff from Nick and started giving it a go. But yeah, it's awesome. It's good. And what was really cool, I forget who I talked to about it. My first box arrived, and gosh, who did I talk to? Somebody was like, oh man, that's a great team they put together over there. One, you can trust those guys. They're all in on everything being, natural and good for you and the rest of it. And I was like, okay, check, roger that. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's pretty like athletic conscious and bodily conscious. There's a a bunch of athletes on the team. Like we were talking about earlier, Mark Healy's on the team.
So awesome.
Founder, and everybody really wants the best for their system.
Yeah.
And they were trying to fill a gap in the market.
Yeah.
Really good, natural, as close to organic product as we could get.
So great.
Yeah.
Man, awesome. Awesome. Making me thirsty right now. Well, what am I holding here? Look at this. People are like, why is he holding this arrow? This thing is amazing.
I pissed him off and he threatened me.
Incredible. This thing is amazing. So when did you come up with the, you got that bear recurve like 4 years ago?
Oh, no, that must have been five-ish.
5 years ago. So it came up to the house and we were checking that thing out. And I forget, did you get the anniversary edition?
No, I didn't. I just got, that's a standard.
I need to get the anniversary edition, but I've missed it. So now I've got to find it. It's got too busy. It was on my list. They're out there. Okay. I need to track one of those down. But so you brought that up and we launched a few arrows at the house with that.
We did.
And I knew you'd start making bows.
Yeah, I sort of lost my mind there. Last January, I want to say, January, February, Logan Stark and I went out to Corey Hawk's place and made bows. And I thought it was fantastic. I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. We made hunting weight bows, like 65-ish pound draw weight. And it took about a year to really boil under my skin that I really want to make one.
Yeah.
And I just said, screw it. And I built a shave horse bench in the garage. Dang. And ordered a bow stave and said, I'll just watch some videos and remember what I learned from Corey and give it a rip. So I talked to a couple people online, including Corey and Clay Hayes, and they recommended a few things, and I built the Osage bow that's on the ground. And then that was 2 weeks ago. And then this week I built the U bow that's on the ground.
Man, let's check them out. Let me see these things. Let me see these things. And what is Corey's background?
So Corey was a Marine, and he's been building bows for quite a long time. I'd have to look to see exactly how long. So this is Osage Orange.
Look at this thing.
That's a linen backing instead of an actual diamondback. I didn't want to blow up a diamondback skin for my first bow that I put in the garage.
Yeah. It looks like the Predator. I'd call this thing Predator. Man, this is awesome. We're going to shoot these things afterward.
We're going to.
So how long ago did you make this?
So, about a week and a half ago. And it took about 3 days for me to do. And that's a traditional North American bow wood, Osage oranges. It's got great characteristics to it.
Okay.
And I wrapped it with some buckskin.
Yeah, right here.
Handle. And so then I took what I learned from that, and that's shooting great right now.
Yeah.
And built this Pacific U bow.
Let me see that one.
Yeah.
Let me see that one. I'll trade you. Nice.
And so
that's beautiful.
I gave a couple different things on this one. That was the first time I bent wood, so I boiled the tips and then recurved them back, and that gives it a little bit faster cast, like arrow throw.
No way.
A little less string follow. Yeah, it just makes it a smoother bow, which is why many bows have recurves on the tips.
Man. Growing up, I always wanted to make my own bow, hunt with it, and go through the whole process with something that I made from the ground up. Have not done it yet, this is pretty sick. This is pretty cool, man.
Well, and what really, I think the catalyst for the end of me needing to do this was rereading Last of the Breed.
Nice.
I've read it like 4 or 5 times, but I just finished rereading it. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. Yeah. I don't care. I'm making this happen.
That was when I was reading it when it first came out. I know exactly where I was. I can picture myself exactly where I was and reading that book and having that same dream of being able to do that. Joe Mack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what you're holding is a 650 grain Sitka spruce shaft. Dude. And that's wild turkey fletchings on the back. Wow. And yeah, that's about as close to,
beautiful
Paleolithic or primitive. They try not to say primitive because it's really not primitive. That's a little derogatory as a term, but it's a good way to describe it to people.
Yeah.
It's just a wood arrow.
Wow. That's beautiful. And what is this? Is there tar somewhere on this or
no? So that's artificial sinew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. I have one right here. So I think there's some tar on one of the arrows that's up there. So you see that one on the wall right there?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a deer bone at the end of it, and there's tar holding it on.
Freaking cool.
Right there. And yeah, Tracker Joe 08 on Instagram made that for me after he read Savage Son, which was in part inspired by Last of the Breed.
And it looks like a Cherokee style arrow.
Okay. It's
to me.
It's pretty, it's, yeah,
Super
we'll go
cool.
check it out afterward. It's beautiful, which is why it's right there on the wall under that Parker. Yeah, that's legit. But then he also made me some arrows right here. See these guys?
Oh,
to actually shoot.
To actually shoot.
Yeah, through this bow right there.
That looks gorgeous.
That. Yeah. Check that out. So yeah, he built that. And
this
will be my first time shooting it. We'll shoot it today. I've been telling him I've been so busy. I haven't had a chance to do it.
He'll get some good pictures.
I don't know why I haven't had a chance to do it, because there are 22 targets like within almost a football's throw of us right now.
Yeah, leave it to the hunting guide to look at one and go, hey, look up. Never mind.
This is awesome, man. This is really sweet. So I'm so fired up that you're doing that.
Yeah,
man, just incredible. Wow. But before that, let's. I mean, you've always been is artsy the right word?
Yeah, that's a great word for it.
Yeah, because what did you do before the SEAL teams? You were going to school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Before I joined the Navy, I was at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
Yeah, wow.
Which is
that's pretty serious.
Yeah, it's the museum-based school in Chicago. It's the large art museum there, and it's been around since the 1800s. A goofy fact about them is they have the largest impressionist collection. Period. I think even more than France. France has been trying to get some of that stuff back. So I was going to school there.
The art world's crazy. Don't mean to interrupt you.
It's freaking
art world is insane. There are all those stories about Getty in LA and how they people can go back, and I think there's some I'm sure there are multiple articles about how some of those paintings arrived and how some of that artwork got in there.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's a a whole underworld type thing. Like, it's very interesting. I'm gonna have to explore it in the pages of a future novel, perhaps, just to have the excuse of putting in the time into to studying that world.
Get some time to go behind closed doors at the Art Institute or at the Getty.
Yeah,
it's a cool place.
Yeah, interesting. There's some shady things going on sometimes.
Sometimes,
man. So how did you get there? What was
my dad does bronzes and has been a painter his whole life. He didn't really pursue it, but encouraged me to do it. My mom was an artist, also encouraged me to get deep into that art.
Yeah.
And so that's where I ended up going instead of going to music school, because I was also playing trumpet in orchestras and jazz bands. And so instead of doing one, I did the other.
Okay.
I applied to Chicago, and Chicago's got a great program.
No way.
I wanted to do museum restoration. So I wanted to be able to handle the Renoirs, the Dürers, all of the art that you can't really see up that close. Yeah.
Well, when you're that young, what are they looking at? Like, what does your resume after that point have on it where they're like, hey, this is a good candidate?
It's art. You know, you come in with a book and it's bring your pieces, show us why. And then you get interviewed. It's a lot of personal interviews.
Really?
Yeah.
So how many people are do you have a class that you start with? Or
yeah. It was a couple hundred people, I think.
Okay. All over the world?
No, it was mostly all over the country. There's some international students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But mostly U.S.?
Mostly United States, yeah.
Okay.
But it was super cool, because that school is part of the museum, and the museum was started for the school.
Wow.
So you have access to all this. So we're able to go do drawings while sitting in front of a Holbein or sitting in front of a Monet.
Wow.
It's there for the students. You know?
Wow.
It's incredible.
Where did the restoration part come from? What made you want to do the restoration rather than
a little bit of rationality? I wanted a job, and you can actually get a job doing that.
Okay.
As opposed to being a gallery artist, where you're kind of at the whim and the fancy of whoever's buying your stuff.
Okay.
As well as I wanted to touch the stuff.
Wow.
You know, I've always been the person that goes into a museum and I'm like, well, I want to grab the sword. I want to know what that thing feels like.
It belongs in a museum.
I want that.
No way.
And so I was there. That was 2006. The war had been kind of going pretty hot. I was 18. Didn't feel like I was contributing. And that comes from a really long family history of service. My family's served in every conflict back past the revolution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And both my granddads are alive, and one was in Korea, the other one was in World War II. And so I have that direct connection to service for the country. And I just decided, I can't sit here in school and not do something when this is going on right now.
Did they tell you stories growing up?
Oh yeah, both. And my dad's dad just turned 100 this February.
Wow.
Yep.
Amazing. Happy birthday, Dad's dad.
Yeah. So cool. He did 7 combat landings in the South Pacific.
Oh my gosh.
And now he's 100 and he's doing just fine.
He's a Marine?
He's a Marine.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a lineman. So he ran lines for the telephones, like the wind-up phones, back and forth in combat, repairing them, getting them set, because there's no other way. You know, they didn't have walkie-talkies.
Not rocking that in bitter.
Nope. There's no embedder. There's no PRC-5. Like, you got to run that shit back and forth. So that was his job.
Wow. That is wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did and before that, did he hear stories from his father from World War I?
From his father and from his, I believe it's his grandfather or great grandfather was in the Civil War. So,
dang,
direct line of communication.
So he heard stories from the Civil War. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And we had family members fight on both sides. So we've really run the gamut of the American experience there.
Yeah, interesting. I did not know that. I can't believe we never talked about that before.
I talked to Clint Trial about it, and oddly enough, his family's got the same history.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, all the way back past the Revolution.
Oh, man.
Wow, what are the chances both of us?
That's wild. Yeah, Clint's going to come up here at some point, too.
They're that tight.
Yeah, that's what I love about the podcast. It's an excuse, because there's so much going on. It's an excuse to put the phone down, turn it off, and just hang out for a little bit. So,
precisely.
Yeah, Clint's going to come up here at some point. And,
love that guy.
And, yeah, he's amazing. Oh my gosh, incredible. Well, I didn't know that about either of you. And in this last book, in Only the Dead, I did a little more of a deep dive into James Reese's background and put a family member on either side of the conflict of the Civil War as well for him. I had his wife's family modifying rifles that were coming over from England. So anyway, that was really cool. But I didn't know that about it. That's incredible.
I mean, it was cool growing up with that kind of history.
Did you hear like French and Indian War? Is that what's wow?
Like all the way back through. And I mean, we have a letter written from my dad's mom's side of the family, and one of my family members was interred at Andersonville.
Oh,
and he was a flag bearer, and we have the tassel from the bottom of the flag.
Wow. And
a letter describing where it came from and a picture of him all framed. So I mean, I grew up with that kind of stuff in the house, and it's wild to know that we were participating in all these things.
Yeah, man. So we just took our little guy. I should stop calling him that. He's 12, about to be 13.
He's a little compared to us.
You know, yeah. He's always going to be my little guy probably. But we went down to Gettysburg with him this summer and did the full tour of Gettysburg. And it's, I've read, of course, Killer Angels, and everybody who has not read Killer Angels should read Killer Angels for sure. But I learned so much more when I was out there, and I meant to reread it before, but there's so much going on, I didn't get a chance.
That's a dense book too.
It's but it makes it. I love it that it humanizes it, so it's not like a history book, you know.
No.
And that's what I love about his book, and then his son's work as well. But he lived. The son lives out there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. It's wild. Saw his house, and it's just. I learned so much more being there on the ground though than and I think I was there in like 3rd grade, so when I was 8. Maybe, but doing it now, and then with the experiences that we've had overseas and that sort of thing, a little more mileage, it was really cool to walk those fields and look at the terrain and kind of know visually, not just reading and kind of imagining, or maybe seeing a map and seeing like some arrows or something, but to be there and then be looking out. Oh, I see just this little roll of this hill. I see how you wouldn't, see this group coming this way and here's flanking here and these guys left and because of communication issues. And it's really interesting. Everybody should go to Gettysburg. They do a good job with
that kind of stuff. Is so interesting, and it should touch your soul.
Yeah, it does.
I felt that way when I went and visited Little Bighorn.
Oh, wow.
Because I've read like Burying My Heart at Wounded Knee and all the bits and pieces from Custer's side. And like I've read through Red Cloud's writing, and then you get to go and experience it. You're like, oh man, this is where this happened. And like that experience. And then I traveled to Andersonville, and I got to visit knowing that I had a family member that was kept prisoner there.
That's crazy.
Was wild. It was it's hard to describe. It was a strange emotion for me.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this
If people don't know Andersonville, they should look it up and do a little research on what happened there.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to go to Little Bighorn too. I've been meaning to get there and go there with someone that can walk you through.
Yeah,
and
you should.
And really, instead of me just like reading something and going there looking and, you know, all right, back in the car, kids.
Yeah.
Going there with someone who's really studied, obviously, the battle and the terrain and everything else and can pass along some of those lessons. And
it's a special place that they have set aside.
Amazing. Man. That is wild. And how far does that family history go back? French and Indian War, and then do you know where people came from?
Yeah, we do. So
here?
I think our first, I believe I'm getting this date right. First family member came in 1649 and was a stowaway. So we had an illegal immigrant come over, and then we can trace the history further back to like ancillary parts of the Danish royal sort of family, about the year, I think 900 or 1000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, we might be brothers, actual brothers.
Possible.
Yeah. Man, that's where part of our family comes from as well.
That's
rad. Man, that's amazing that you have that lineage. That is really cool. So
thank my grandmother. She did all the work.
Okay.
Yeah. She dove into it.
Yeah, my mom's doing that right now. She comes out here once a year to Utah because whether you're Mormon or not, apparently the Mormons have a lot of
they have all the histories.
Yeah, of everybody,
all the people.
Yeah,
yeah,
not just Mormons.
No,
yeah, it's wild. I didn't really know that until we moved out here. So she's been putting that stuff together and trying to.
It's good to have.
Yeah, and trying to figure out what family kind of stories were rumors, what were true, how do we. Anyway, so it's that's pretty cool. So we're getting that together. So hopefully that our kids will then now have something tangible that they can point to rather than I think I heard this from my mom who heard it from so and so, and so that'd be really cool to get that together.
Yeah, we had that all put together, and then about the same time, my dad sat down with his dad and had him talk through his entire time in the Pacific. Well, from training all the way then to the Pacific. So we have that all written down while he was very, very lucid and wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
So he would have been probably in his 70s, I'd say, 80s maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. It's been cool for our daughter to go with Best Defense Foundation and go out to Normandy and be assigned to a veteran as a caretaker, and then go to Pearl Harbor also and do that same thing there and sit down with these guys and hear their stories and have this touch point with these people that are between, let's say, 96 and 103.
Yeah.
And share meals
very quickly
and
disappearing.
And yeah, it's so for her to have that touch point and to have those stories from those people rather than just reading it eventually or reading about these battles or this time in history, but it's really, I think, changed her life. Having that experience. She calls him. I talked to my guy yesterday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's Walter up in Seattle. Talked to him, and my daughter calls the guy Jack that she was in charge of or that was helped on this trip, who's in Texas. And man, so Jack is Jack Stowe. He is almost 100, and he's still like repairing his roof and like doing all these things that he shouldn't be doing.
It's freaking awesome.
Amazing. So inspirational.
Just keep living life.
Yeah, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. But that's great that you guys got those stories and you had those touch points. So you're at art school, for lack of a better
That's what it
term. And how long are you there before you decided that it's time to enlist?
2 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty quick for me. I very quickly realized that was not the path I wanted to be on.
Okay. Is that because you felt like you needed to be elsewhere, or let's say there wasn't a war going on and
I probably would have stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The wars.
So you did like it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I still paint and draw and do digital art, and I mean, this is, creative and it's in my blood, and I'm never going to be able to make that go away. Yeah. It's a thing that being able to express what you can't express with language, sometimes with your hands, via some medium, is the way to go. Yeah. And that's just in me.
How many people were there to, is there an art restoration path, or were people there for all sorts of different
everything. Paths? Everything from some strange installation stuff that you might not understand and that I definitely might not agree with.
Installation of
like art, like you walk into a building and there's a couch hanging from the ceiling upside down.
Oh, okay.
That could be somebody's art for some reason. But the other side of that was the printmaking restoration side of the house. And you get to do some stuff there that isn't really common, like stone lithography. So you're drawing on a stone in reverse with a crayon, and then you etch away, or you cover it with a medium, and then you pull off the crayon and you etch it away. And that's how they used to do like newspaper printings for like drawings and stuff. Yeah. And that medium is going to go away eventually because the quarry that they quarried all that slate out of doesn't exist anymore. And they've dumped most of those rocks into the ocean that they used for stone litho. And every time you do another one, you grind off the top layer. So that image is gone forever.
Interesting. Man. So in art restoration, do most people work for a museum, or are there private collections that also need things?
There are likely private collections that need the same sort of care. But then the museum has them on staff because you can't have that stuff sitting out all the time. You know, somebody needs to go in and clean it because the tens of thousands of people that are walking through and just breathing and shedding dirt and dust, it all gets on the art, regardless of how they try and protect it. So somebody has to go in there and clean it. Somebody has to get it back to looking good. Yeah. And in some cases, somebody has to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed. Yeah. Yeah.
Man. I think most of what I know of art restoration comes from the Daniel Silva novels, the Gabriel Allon series, an Israeli assassin whose latest book, The Collector, is out now. For those who haven't read Daniel Silva, they're fantastic. That series has been going for a long time now, but incredible books, absolutely incredible books. But so you're there for 2 months,
and then just about, and then I went down and talked to a recruiter without telling my parents. I was like,
in Chicago?
Yep. I'm like, sorry, Mom and Dad, I'm 18. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. He had given me all of Larry Chambers' LERP books growing up, so I'd read those. I mean, I'd read Platoon. I'd read,
So you're aware of special operations in Vietnam?
Yeah, I was aware of special operations in Vietnam. I didn't have a path that I wanted. I didn't.
So you weren't like SEALs.
Absolutely not. And I've said this before to people that, like, unlike you or Andy, that kind of knew from a very young age, like, that's what I want to do. That's the thing. That's my direction. I mean, I was going to art school. Yeah. Like, let's be serious here. I wasn't on the path to being a Navy SEAL or a snake eater Green Beret. You know? Like, that wasn't a thing. So I thought about it and I was like, what's the hardest, quickest way that I can get overseas? The combination of the both, right? And that I went with the SEAL teams.
How did you do that research then?
I probably just literally sat there and went on a search engine. I mean, this was 2006, so yeah, Google, but that might have been the only search engine I was able to.
So you just Googled it and were like, oh, SEALs.
Yeah, and I think I thought like, what's the closest thing to the LERP teams?
Okay.
Because they didn't really have them around anymore. Not to my knowledge. I was so outside of that circle of understanding in the military. Yeah. That I just picked the thing that was closest to me.
Really? So you didn't do a full-on deep dive into SEALs versus Rangers versus Army Special Forces versus PJs?
Not particularly. PJs didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
I think the things that occurred to me were like Ranger Bat, SF, and the SEAL teams.
Gotcha.
SF seemed like too long of a track. I was like, man, this war's been going for 5 years.
Yeah,
I better get in this shit.
You're going to miss it.
Yeah. And my minimal research felt like Ranger Bat, to me, from the outside looking in, wasn't going to be as special forces-y, if that makes sense. I don't know. It felt like my research said, they're a blocking force. They do a lot of fighting. Like, the fighting wasn't necessarily the big thing that I was interested in. It was the whole holistic approach to the entirety of the unit that I was going to join. So that's what I picked, SEAL teams.
Man, how long did it take before you walked into that recruiter and then you got on that bus to Great Lakes? Or you just walk over to Great Lakes?
1 year.
Okay.
I went home. So I took a leave of absence with the school and I finished the year out because I told my parents I would. Like, hey, I'll finish the year. I'll just train while I'm here. And I went home, got a job as a lifeguard, and did nothing but train. I just followed, and that was 2007. So that was all of Stu Smith.
Beach lifeguard or like a pool somewhere?
Pool. Yeah. And I mean, I grew up surfing a little bit and swimming, and I'm from LA, so I'm close enough to the ocean that stuff didn't weird me out or feel odd. But I lifeguarded that summer there, and they let me train. It was like at a high school. So I trained on the track and did whatever, but I just followed Stu's books and.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing like the Navy SEAL prep program.
Yeah.
Stu Smith?
Yeah. The like little 110-page book or whatever it is.
That's Stu Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think his books have probably got more guys through buds than any other program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he like the first book that you could get to kind of
I don't think there was. I don't think there was anything else out at the time. Nothing.
I remember
really.
I had some in the 80s. I had some. It might have been Betamax VHS tapes from the back of Soldier of Fortune magazine. That was
I've
like,
seen these.
but it was just a dude working out, and he was like, just
we'll do squats now.
Yeah, it was just like it was the 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
1, 2.
I think I've seen some of those.
And when I did get to buds, like there was still the same type of stuff.
I mean, they were still doing that in 07.
yeah, still the same type of deal. But flutter kicks and good morning darlings and push ups and 8-count bodybuilders, which are eerily similar to burpees.
Someday you may have to do 45 minutes of flutter kicks.
It was fantastic. But that's what this guy was. I think he was. He's a development group guy, maybe back in the day or something like that. He was a big dude. I forget his name right now. It's slipping my mind, but I will remember it because there wasn't very much out there back then, And so and anything even, I saw, I'd get. And
even when I got in, I think Luttrell's book came out right before I joined right before I signed my contract.
Okay.
Because that was 2007. Okay. And that had only happened, 2 years prior.
Yeah. Wow. So you get there, so you go, boot camp. Do they have the pre-buds thing there?
We were like the second class to do it. So it was a bit, sorry guys, if you're listening and you were part of this program, sorry, it was a circus.
Oh yeah.
Hilarious.
It
was a bit of a circus.
A very expensive circus from what I remember. A very expensive
circus. Yeah. And I've heard now that they've actually done a good job. And
it's
pretty well professionalized. It was pretty well run, but at the time, man, we went through that and it was a circus.
Wow.
And then we went to PTRR and INDOC. We did.
Oh, you did it all.
We did it all.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't know. I think I was only there for 6 weeks, or 5 weeks. And then we went through PTR and INDOC. And now it's like a 2 or 3 month program.
Okay. So you did boot camp, and were you in a, what do they call it?
Yeah,
a division?
One of the dive mode divisions.
Okay. So you were in a division with people that were going either to try to be SEALs or EOD or
rescue swimmer, diver. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so you stayed there and learned how to carry logs and boats.
No, they didn't have that yet. It was like workout-y stuff. Oh, okay. They just had us do like track and field workouts and swim.
They had the pool there.
Yeah. So we just did extra. We did exactly what I was doing at home.
Gotcha.
Like, this is like totally normal.
Okay,
but I've since heard that they do.
That's one of the things. They kind of teach you some techniques of certain things, I guess.
Which we did that at PTR and INDOC.
Yeah.
But that was because our class was only maybe a third guys coming from that program. Everybody else were fleet returnees.
Yeah.
Which they've since basically phased out.
Okay.
But I don't know. I kind of liked having NCOs that were from the fleet.
Yeah.
I think that really smoothed out how to be in the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, barely. We had a couple guys like that, but I don't really, remember them. They were old, those guys.
Exactly. Oh my God, he's 30.
Yeah, they were. That would have been really old. I think they were probably like 25.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
26.
I'm sure those guys were like 25 or 26.
Super old. They've been in the fleet for 2 years.
I was 19.
Ancient. And so you go from there to buds, do PTRR, which is the pre thing, just kind of waiting for your class to actually commence with first phase, and now you're doing PT. In the sand.
Yep.
And carrying some boats, maybe carrying
yelled
some
at a little bit.
Logs. Yelled at, not as much as you're going to be yelled at in a few weeks. You're learning how to do the O course, learning some technique.
O course, I think the Zodiac boats, it's just the little technique stuff that would probably hamper somebody from making a legitimate effort at getting through the program.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then into first phase you go.
Damn right.
And how was Hell Week for you?
It wasn't too bad for me. Like, I lost, I think, 9 or 10 pounds. But when I came out of it, I was a little sick and I had walking pneumonia. And at the time they would do drown proofing 1 attempt before Hell Week. And I think they had the assumption that if you couldn't make it through, that you were panicky and you would probably quit.
Huh.
So there was a group of us that didn't pass the drown proofing.
Oh, really?
Which includes
the lifeguard?
Well, it's like knot tying and the underwater swim. And I think I failed for procedure on knot tying.
Yeah.
All the rest of the stuff was fine, like all the floating and bobbing and the underwater swim. It was I think I procedurally failed. And the instructor was like, "Don't worry, you'll have another attempt."
When you have walking pneumonia the day after Hell Week.
Yeah, so that was when I got my other attempt, and I failed flat out.
Oh, man.
And the staff were like, "What the hell? Didn't you do this and this? Weren't you alive?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "I'm sick." Yeah. So I went through the whole DRB board.
Oh, dang.
Oh, yeah. Well, because if you fail, right? They're going to roll you back or get rid of you. I was terrified. I was in my blues and this is how it goes.
Wow.
I'm going to get through Hell Week and they're going to get rid of me.
for not tying.
Mm-hmm. And
I don't know if I've heard a story from somebody.
Well,
like this.
So not tying was the first one. All the rest of them were fine. And then now having pneumonia, I couldn't even do the swim, or like nothing else was functioning. So I failed for the entirety of the thing.
Oh, geez.
You know,
I think that was different than how we did it.
Yeah. So I go in front of the board, and you know, they see like a super nervous, I'm about to get kicked out 19-year-old standing in front of them. And I think it was Kevin Stark, instructor Stark, who looked at me and he's like, calm the fuck down. He's like, calm the fuck down. You're what we want here. Get healthy and don't fuck this up again.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then it was, at the time, Chief Good, or Senior Chief Good, pulled me aside and he's like, don't fuck this up. Like, he just looked at me. Oh, I mean, he's looking down at me because he's a freaking giant.
Right.
And then I passed fine. Nice. It was not a big deal. But,
oh man, I still have my little rope.
Oh yeah,
the little
10-inch
like, I think there's some maybe rigger's tape on the ends of it, something like that. But it's somewhere around here. I think it's in this room. It used to be in that box with my knife.
I still have my first phase helmet.
Nice.
And my UDT shorts.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I think we saved a couple UDT shorts, a couple white t-shirts, a couple brown t-shirts. My knife from Bud's is right over there.
Oh, I have a brown the whole time. I have a brown t-shirt too.
Nice. Those got really soft.
Oh, and they
like before people knew about soft t-shirts or whatever, or like you could get them soft already, when t-shirts were just boxy, like they, for whatever reason, chlorine, salt water, washes, sweat, you know, all of that just constantly for that 6, 7, 8 months. Like that made those things soft.
The magic formula, people, for soft t-shirts is never take it off. Only wash it when you have to, and be in a pool and the ocean in the same day every day for 6 months.
I think so, because it's noticeable.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable.
Same thing with the UDT shorts.
Oh yeah, those mine always say. I guess they must have gotten a little softer, but I don't remember them ever being comfortable.
No, they're not. They're canvas with 1-inch inseam.
So I think it was this like when you went through that you were supposed to wear like the Speedo underneath the UDT shirts in first phase, but not in second phase.
Exactly.
Because of the O2.
They're like, you'll create static and blow the place up.
But I think, gosh, was it when I was there, or was it the class before me? Things have kind of blended a little bit. But they had, I think CBS came out, and I think it was, that's right. It was CBS came out, and it was a few classes before me, but the story was still there. And the guys were told, I think it was first phase, maybe it was second phase, so they had brown t-shirts. Not positive, but you can probably find it on YouTube. And they went out there to do a morning PT session with CBS. So they have the female CBS lady, you know, doing her thing, and they got the cameras, you know, a couple cameras up front that are going to kind of pan across the grinders. The guys are working out for like B-roll, and she'll be talking to like the first phase, you know, O or chief or maybe the CO or whatever. And so the guys are told to wear the Speedos underneath the UDT shorts. So for those who are listening, UDT shorts are very short,
1 inch,
and there's no sort of like gusset-y thing. It's just like, it's World War II.
Yeah.
It's like what you would have been issued in 1941, 42, 43.
Why they're called UDT shorts.
And so the guys get out there, and you're like standing at attention, you know, and then